If I was going to recommend any property on the Strip just for the dealers, I would say it doesn't exist. They were trying to put all this emphasis on a casino that absolutely sucks. Like as a gambler, you just wouldn't go there. They hate players. They've gotten to this point where they no longer give a shit about player engagement. There's a lot of dealers that have been doing this a very long time and have commiserated themselves into this whole other experience. And after seeing this video, they can talk a lot of shit about David. But so it goes. What makes a casino great? What makes you want to visit a casino? I think it comes down to the experience that we have with other people. Now, leadership is what defines a casino. Those casinos that people gravitate to the most, especially gamblers, all have at the helm a leadership, because a leadership, the right leadership, creates the right experience. It's behind the scenes. It's all those little things that impact a property. There are some casinos here in town. They're not the nicest properties, but locals love them because it's about a scene. I want to drill down into really just the gambler's motivations for going to a casino. And now that I'm behind the scenes, I can see how leadership really plays a role in creating an environment that's very conducive to me as a gambler. So let's break down all the areas that I think play a role. And at the end of it, I'm going to give you what I think is the best casino in Vegas. Okay, let's start with the most obvious reason why we go to a casino. It's clean bathrooms. No, I'm just kidding. Bathrooms, though, clean bathrooms is definitely a big plus, but I'm not going to include that necessarily, other than to say atmosphere plays a big role. And when I say atmosphere, you know, I want to walk into a casino. I don't want to see that it's smoky. I don't want to see, dirt, obviously. I want to see a very clean, sort of a pristine environment. Me personally, I don't like the bright lights. I like sort of softer lights. I like softer colors. So atmosphere plays a big role in sort of how I feel. Gets me in the mood. I like the place that feels cozy. I don't know how casino environments get that way, but you know, like the chairs and the softness and the textures you feel and how you interact with the casino space, the things that make it cozy. A lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, we look for that machine, and we look for that table where, you know, we don't feel like we're in a cavern or a big auditorium. You know, it feels cozy. You know, the ceilings are a little closer, the lights are dim, and we have our own space with which to gamble. I know I like to feel that way. I don't know how you guys like to feel that way, but coziness is a big one on my list.
What is your favorite casino atmosphere?
Oh, atmosphere? Believe it or not, the best atmospheres that ever existed in town are no longer among the living right now as casino floors. I'm not really fond of casino floors that sort of stretch endlessly in either way.
You like a pit?
I like a pit, an actual pit. So back in the day, the most famous pits that I really enjoyed were the Dunes, which is no longer around, right? And the only one left that I know that it's a real pit per se, and I mean pit where it's sort of, it's sunken in, you step down into the pit, is the Horseshoe. Right now, I would say that my two favorite pits, maybe three. First of all, MGM Mansion, if you're a VIP, is just a really cozy, great atmosphere, lots of good sound, good smells. You know, it's a great environment. The lighting is fantastic, decor. But locally, I would say my two favorite pits are Palace Station and Green Valley. Both of those pits are sort of very close. Cocktails close, there's a lounge close, you can take a break. The environment is very, I wouldn't say rich, but very gambler friendly. So I'm going to talk about food from the perspective of the gambler. And by that I mean this. There are a lot of properties here in Vegas that have gone just completely into the stratosphere. Used to be, you went to a casino and they had a cheap option for those of us who knew we were going to gamble and might actually lose a few dollars. So we could save a $20 bill, $30 bill so we can eat afterwards. Now you got to get lucky and win a shit ton of money to afford to eat at most of the restaurants that are at these casinos. That's a real takeaway. And you know, there are people that'll be like, well, they have food halls. Okay, come on now. A food hall that's $50 a person isn't much of a budget choice, you see? And buffets that are $95 a person instead of $25 a person, I mean, that's not an affordable entry either. Not to mention the fact that some of these buffets you have to wait for 2 hours, or there's even a buffet that you have to have a reservation. You can't just stand in line. You can't show up and stand in line, God forbid. Not to mention, they should be accessible. You know, I shouldn't have to have a reservation 2 months in advance in order to sit down and eat there, because guess what? I might not know what I can afford based on my gambling habits, you see? There's a couple casinos that I would recommend for food.
Yeah.
But they're all into that absurdly expensive category. But I will say this, Venetian, you know, you're gonna have to walk a lot. The restaurant row they have is very disconnected from, let's say, you know, where you're gonna gamble. But I will say this, Venetian has a nice range of food options. I do like Resort World. I've enjoyed Breeza, they have juniors there, and they have some really great sort of destination restaurants that have become very popular. You know, Fontainebleau has restaurants that are absurdly expensive. Even the casual dining there is gonna set you back. Not to mention the fact that the place is such a cavern, dude. It really is a cavern. You got to get your GPS out, figure out where you're gonna go, how you're gonna get there. You know what I mean? Bring yourself some good hiking shoes, some water. You know what I mean? You may need. I mean, it's crazy. So if I was gonna say local, you know, as far as the food choices, Palace Station I love for just a range of food options. The other one that's making inroads is Durango. Durango's food hall is fantastic. And so far, literally every single option there is fantastic. The meat of being a gambler is you're gonna play slots or table games, right? So let's look at the slot machines. So slot machines, clearly number one on my list if I'm an actual gambler is payback and time on device. My ability to have my ass in the seat and play. Because if I am going in with hope and aspirations, right, I still want to have some time on device. That my $100 is going to give me some time. My entertainment value is going to be returned. So I'm looking for a couple things. A variety of different machines, right? A variety of different entry points. You know what I mean? 1 penny, 2 penny, 5 cents, 10 cents, quarter, 50 cents, $1, right? So, which plays into a lot of my different money management strategies on slot machines. And I also am looking for the high limit salon. I start at the lower levels, pennies, 2 cents, 5 cents, a quarter. And if I win, maybe I move my ass to high limit salon and give myself this other opportunity. Now, that's important because some high limit salons are really just bright, ridiculously bright. Don't feel comfortable there. You know, again, I want it to be cozy. I want machines that will have, you know, offer me a range of options. You know, I'm not completely sold on the slots, just slots on themselves. I like video poker, Keno, as you know. So I'm looking for these types of options to play out in a high limit salon. I also want service. I look for salons or high limit salons that have a cashier and someone actually there that can provide me this other level of service, because guess what? I've upgraded, you see? And I don't want to have to wait a half hour to get paid, because God forbid I hit the big one. I want to get paid as quickly as possible and mosey my ass out of that casino. Ready?
Do you still go to Dottie?
I don't go to Dottie's anymore. Dottie's is a shithole. Without any doubt, back in the day, just from a pure slots point of view, I love Dottie's machines. The paybacks on Dottie's machines are the best there is anywhere, still to this day. I mean, that's how they compete as a slot par. The problem is literally just breathing and not smelling like an ashtray when you leave. It smells terrible. It's just the smoking is crazy. Yeah, Dottie's is no longer a thing. I think eventually Dottie's will die. It just gets a reputation for just being filled with smoke all the time. You go in there and it's just like, you know, you can't breathe. The thing I like most about Station is they have a range of payback options. They have updated most of their floors with all the most recent technology, all the recent slot machines, whatever you're looking for, you can usually find it on the Station casino floor. There's also the range of, you know, betting minimums. So they literally have 1 cent to, you know, $5. There's even a $25 machine in some of the high limit salons, so you can play at any level you want. Every station now has a high limit salon, and almost every high limit salon that I know of has its own cashier and its own people there literally on standby to service. So if you're a high limit, you play in a high limit salon, it's a really great environment. The paybacks in the high limit salon starting at a quarter and ranging up to $5 to $25 are some of the best paybacks you'll find in town. If you play slots on the strip, by the way, you typically get the lowest payback. As far as slots go, I will tell you this. I love Resorts World. I love their slot floor, that food hall that sits literally right next to it. So you can literally eat or bring your food over, your chicken sandwich, and sit on the slot machine, which is very nice. I also, strangely enough, love Aria. So I love Aria slots. Whoever the hell is running that slot department has done a fantastic job. They have some great machines there, especially for Keno, video poker, this type of thing. The problem is the access. And if you don't know where you're going inside the Aria, it's a huge floor. You're gonna be walking a ways just to find the machines you're looking for. So access is terrible, but they do have some great machines. Some of their bar tops are absolutely fantastic. So if you're someone who likes to drink and play, that's definitely a thing. All right, let's talk about table games, the bread and butter, for me anyways. Most casinos would argue that the bread and butter is really the slots, but table games is why I ultimately like to visit a casino. Even if I'm playing slots, by the way, I love the energy that comes from table games. I like hearing the excitement on a crap table. I like hearing the check. It's like ASMR for me. One of the things I used to love to do here in town was play slots at Palace right next to the table game environment so I can watch what was going on in the table game. It was always such a fascinating thing for me, seeing how players interact and how dealers interact and all the energy that comes from the table game space. But ultimately, a lot of us, if we're going to the casino, we expect to play some table games. So here is sort of my checklist. One is the lowest possible minimum bets. And that's a tough thing to find here in Vegas. I want not just the lowest minimums, but the highest maximum. I want this full range of experience because as we teach you, creating opportunity is not about where you start, it's where you finish, right? Taking advantage of the streaks and the chaos and all these things, right? So we want tables. I want to see tables that range from $5 to maybe $5,000, which is not always a thing here in Vegas. Okay, so a lot of strip casinos have gone to $15, $25 tables, even higher on the weekends. These are takeaways for me. I would never play those table games, so they're quite literally off of my list. And I represent, I think, most gamblers. There are the niche gamblers that want to play $100, even $1,000 table. Guess what? Fontainebleau has had $1,000 minimum table a few times. What? What the fuck? Guess what? David's never going to play on that game. It's never going to be a thing. Are you kidding me? I don't even understand how a table like that got on. But, so I need to find table minimums that have a full range. I don't mind sometimes playing a $10 or $15 table, but I want to start on a $5 game as much as possible, and that limits where I can go. The next thing is I want dealers that are friendly. I want to have a full level engagement. I don't want a lot of cranky dealers or sometimes these older jaded dealers that are just there collecting their tokes and can care less about customer service. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about because there are plenty of those here in town that show up at these center strip casinos. They pick up their $300, $400 a day in tokes and they provide almost zero customer service because guess what? They hate players.
Fuck that motherfucker.
Customer service means nothing to them. They no longer consider themselves a frontline. They're just there to get from 1 hour to the next. Find themselves on break, talk shit about the last customer that was on their game, and it's this whole vicious circle. You know. You go to, sometimes now, you go to a casino that entertains new dealers or where the dealers keep their own tokes or tips, right? And you find a whole different level of engagement. Some of the friendliest dealers in town, you know where they're at? They're at Ellis Island. You know why they're at Ellis? They're at Ellis Island Casino because those dealers have to earn their money. They have to be nice. They have to engage the customer. Customer service actually means something there because they get paid individually. They're incentivized to create this other level of experience, and it works out great. And I would say to you that that's one of the best places to play here in town. If you want to be a table game player, it's one of my favorite casinos to go for that. If I was going to recommend any property on the strip just for the dealers, I would say it doesn't exist. So, the strip really focuses on tourists, right? So every week there's like a new set of people that come through. There's very few real locals that play on the strip, right? Yeah. But again, it always comes down to leadership. Leadership instills sort of that value. Leadership that focuses on people with customer service and not so much about the dealing per se. I think those are the places I want to be. There's a casino here in town where we sent a group of people, they won money, and as the dealers got off the game, they hugged. And it wasn't about the dealers getting a lot of tokes. It was just because of the experience they shared. It was fantastic. That happens where leadership allows for that level of customer service, where every single one of those dealers thinks of themselves as a frontline dealer. And I speak to this because I know a lot of these table game directors, and I know the table game directors where that's the focus. There's a lot of directors that talk about, you know, how they create their environment, and they're focused on the table tech and the bets and the side bets. But, you know, a lot of them get into this bean counter mode where it's just about, you know, theoreticals and house edge and, you know, hands per hour and number of rolls and this type of thing. And so the experience of the pit, the table game, sort of goes off the rails, becomes less about the people. There has to be this balance. Very few casinos I know that really sort of have made this balance, this center, really work for them. And I understand it's a hard piece of the puzzle. And the last thing with table games, of course, we're looking for as a gambler is the best odds. Like, you know, who has the best odds? There's a couple ways that casinos go about this. So some casinos in blackjack, for example, have more 3-2 tables. Or, you know, they have more liberal rules when it comes to blackjack. Some of them have rebate programs on baccarat. Some of them offer certain side bets on baccarat. So each of the games themselves, so whatever game you're looking for, I always tell you, you know, you come with a plan and you understand where you're going, should offer the best odds, right? And it varies up and down the strip. For example, Aria has more than a dozen different table rules based on your level of play, right? With obviously the highest level of play having the best table rules. But a lot of us can't get to that level of play, right? So who has some of the best rules in town? Well, here's the thing. If you are a $25 or $50 player, you know what has some of the best tables in town? Bellagio. MGM properties have double, triple field on a craps game, right? They have auto buys and auto lays. You can't beat that. If you're an odds player in town, so if you play a pass line at odds and you're, again, a craps player, Station Casinos has 10 times odds. South Point has 3-2 blackjack. If you're a blackjack player, you know, you're going to want to look at there. So it's important to understand, you know, what are the best odds, right? Where am I going to play? Unless that doesn't mean anything to you, but it should. In general, who has the best odds in town? Well, I will tell you as a general rule, downtown casinos typically have more liberal rules or better rules when it comes to a comparison between downtown and the strip. And then you have local properties. Of course, station properties have some of the best odds, some of the best games, because they have to maintain some level of competition. You know, they want a few people to kind of venture away from the strip or downtown and find themselves into, let's say, a Palace, a Durango, Green Valley, and this type of thing. So, you know what the most interesting for me is? I would never have voted this casino the best casino, even like 3 or 4 years ago. This casino is the most evolved casino in town by far. But what I will tell you is there's a team of people, and I'm gonna put this out there, and I hope they don't hate me for it, but it's Lee Fleischer. It's literally Lee Fleischer. And you're gonna say to me, but David, you know, don't you guys send dealers? Sure, I send dealers. We send dealers all over town. Do I have a working relationship with this casino? 100%. But if you have been to a casino floor, and if you honestly disconnect a little bit and look at everything just from the point of view of a gambler, you will believe what I believe to be true. This leadership team of Lee and Fleischer have created an environment that is so conducive to the gambler in so many ways and checks off every single box. Not everything perfectly, but if I'm looking to check off all the boxes for literally 90% of us, right? Palace Station is without a doubt the destination. It's close to the strip in downtown. It has the widest range of food choices. I can go get fast food, I can go get steakhouse, I can do everything, and it's all there along with the most famous oyster bar, arguably the most famous oyster bar in the country. It has the widest range of table game options. It has some of the best baccarat in town, some of the best roulette in town. Craps is 10 times odds. They have dealers who are friendly and engaging most of the time. There's no perfect reality. You're not going to walk in anywhere and every single time it's the best experience. That's not true. But what you're going to find is a clean, conducive environment to being a gambler. And you're going to have a wide range of slot machines and a wide range of table games, and every single thing is going to be checked off. They have a high limit salon that's just right there. They have Keno runners. They have the old school Keno board. You can sit there and eat your $6 hamburger with your French fries, and the Keno runner comes right to you. Isn't that fantastic? Where do you get that? You know, they have low limit ETGs. They have a fantastic sports book. right? They have everything. I don't understand. Why aren't more people at Palace Station? The thing is there are a lot of people already at Palace. People have found Palace Station to be the destination. That place has evolved and been converted into what I believe is the ultimate casino destination here in Las Vegas. So those are my choices. What are your choices when you come to Vegas? I would love to hear your comments below. And please be nice and kind, okay? David doesn't like we all have different reasons for going to different casinos. I would love to hear what influences you. And don't forget, the CQ app is coming, cqnexus.com. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye. And then off to Keno to unwind.
Well, the truth is,